I could tell you very easily when it was clear that the decision needed to be made when I met my wife. We just were on the exact same vibration. We were on the exact same wavelength on all levels. Everything was go. Red line. All the way. Everything. It just made sense. And what was so great about knowing, it was just, there was no emotion. That's what's not sexy about this. There was no emotion. There was no fluttering of the heart. There was no ridiculous passion. It was just, holy fuck. It just is. It just already was. I just didn't live it yet, right? In the linear span of time. I've built many startups. Most of them have failed. And so Bitcoin is exactly the place that I like to be. We're going to end it right there. Let me open it up. There we go. All right, guys. I want to talk about something. I want to talk about trusting your gut. Trusting your gut. So I'm throwing it out there early in the show here, guys. Trust your gut. And I'm going to give you the follow-on. Never, ever second guess yourself. Trust your gut. Never, ever second guess yourself. There you have it. You can now, according to YouTube statistics, most people turn me off right about now anyway. So you can tune me out. You can turn me off now. Because I just gave you the TLDR. Took too long, did not read. Here's the end of the show, guys. Trust your gut. Never, ever second guess yourself. I want to talk about this thing because I've had a lot of experience. And I bet as I go through maybe some of these stories here that you will be able to resonate with some of these experiences as well. I believe that your gut, whatever that means to you, that feeling inside, the idea inside, whether it starts literally in your gut, in your stomach, whether it starts in your large intestine or large intestine is probably gas, but but if it starts in your large or small intestine or it starts in your heart, I don't know. I don't know if it starts in your heart. I don't know if it can start in your mind. It really is your second brain. And you might say, well, what the hell? What does that mean? The Egyptians, let's go back some science, guys, some history. The Egyptians actually believed that the stomach was like a second brain because the stomach really operates in many ways differently and independently. That's a better way of saying it. Independently of your primary brain. It does, your stomach does what it wants to fucking do, right? If it feels bad, guess what? It's coming back up, brother. You ate too much, or you didn't eat the right thing, or you got food poisoning, or something, right? You sick? Guess what? Your stomach is going to let you know, and it's going to come back up. Your gut, your stomach is really an independent brain that operates on a different wavelength. It operates on a different level. And when I say trust your gut, I think there's some bio truth to it. There's some real, biology truth to it. And I don't know if it's been studied. I haven't looked it up. Frankly, if I ever get to these parts in my notes, I usually DuckDuckGo it or Google it or whatever, and I try to figure out, has there been science behind it? So for maybe some of the internet sleuths out there, if you're listening on iTunes or Android, Google Play or whatever, you can let me know if this science has been studied of the gut in the context of your most valuable asset, an instinct of sorts is what I'm talking about. And that's it. That's it. Where does it come from? It comes from the gut. It comes from the stomach. It comes from the big and small intestine, that area, right? I mean, trust me, when you got to poo, Guys, your body's going to do what you... Try as you might, brother. Try as you might, sister. The gut is going to do what it wants to do. But it's also, and here's the point of the real thrust of today's conversation, is that your gut just doesn't digest food. It just doesn't throw up food. It just doesn't remove food and remove waste from the body. The gut actually speaks to you. And that's what I want to talk about with you today. Is your gut, trusting your gut, never ever second guessing that gut. I think there's some real truth to that. Don't second guess your gut. Your gut is your most valuable natural asset in terms of understanding what to do in a moment of decision. The gut just knows. It communicates to you on a different wavelength because your brain is telling you stories, my man. Your brain is telling you stories, sister. Your brain is telling you things. You know what those things are? It's called rationalization, rationale, reasons that you should, reasons that you shouldn't. Your brain is great. And I've done Sunday sermons on this. I've done podcasts on this, guys. You are your worst enemy of you. And the reason is because your brain is your enemy in so many ways. Let me count the ways. Your brain, your thinking, your logic will become the best lawyer in town to tell you why you can or why you can't. And then it'll turn into the psychologist and tell you why you're mentally capable of doing this or you're physically able to do this. And then your brain will turn into a betrayer and tell you that can't do it. You suck, you failed before. Why are you going to try again? You're a loser. And then the brain turns into an angel or an angel in disguise. It says, yeah, sure, why not? It's just one time. I'm never going to do this again. It's okay to try it just once, isn't it? Right? Your brain is that thing inside of you that is your biggest enemy. It's you versus you all the time. And so how does the body regulate the rationalization of the brain? How does the body regulate and balance out the amount of shit talking you give to yourself, the amount of rationalization you give yourself, the amount of excuses that come up in your brain? How did the Lord create this system so that this brain of evil, this brain of thinking, right? This brain that confuses you, the brain that fights you, the brain that tells you the greatest and sweetest lies. How does the body balance that? Well, I'll tell you, it's the gut. It's what the Egyptians considered your second brain. It's your instinct. And I'll tell you, bar none, guys, your instinct is far greater than any conventional wisdom. Actually, most conventional wisdom is just wrong. You know what? You want to know why most conventional wisdom is wrong? Because most conventional wisdom has nothing to do with your context in your situation specifically. It's just platitudes. It's just generalities, this conventional wisdom. Let's be intellectually honest. If everyone drove their lives or led their lives to conventional wisdom, then we wouldn't have the inventions, the innovations of today. Because the innovations of today are because people who didn't toe the line, people who didn't follow the rules, people who drew outside the boxes. Right? It's so conventional wisdom, bullshit. Poo-poo on that. Conventional wisdom, your instinct, especially for you. Fuck the world. But for you, your instinct, your gut is how the body regulates, how the body manages the craziness up here in your head. Right? That's it. I figured it out, guys. And I'm a trained scientist, that's for sure. But educated scientist. I am. But I didn't study this stuff. I didn't study the gut, right? That wasn't within my purview at the time. So I haven't dug into this, but I believe, guys. I believe in my heart that the gut. This is just me, little old me, but in my young years, my old age or whatever, I believe I figured it out. I really do. God's honest truth. I believe that how this system, this body was created, was that there was a mind of rationale, a mind of logic, a mind of reason, and that is to be balanced by this gut. By this gut. Because the gut speaks to you in a different wavelength. It speaks to you in a different way. And it tells you things. And you know how the gut has spoken to you in the past. Don't you? Don't you? Learn, let me tell you 4 things that will help you learn to listen to your gut better. Learn to identify the things you can't change and not waste time on them. That's easy. You don't even have to really think about that. Learn to identify things you can't change. Your gut tells you this. I have been in gut situations where my gut has told me, look, you can't change this. You can't change that man. You can't change her opinion. Like, how many times do I need to listen to my gut and learn to identify the things that I just can't change? Mostly people, okay? Why waste time on them? Your gut is already, like, you've said this thing to them before. You've said this thing to them before. They didn't listen then. What? They didn't listen before. They didn't listen the 5th time or 6th time. Some of you guys are just, and myself included, some of us are so dense sometimes that we're at the 20th time that we've said this. Learn to identify things that you can't change, especially people. Situations, but especially people. Don't waste time on them, man. I'll tell you, learning this and trusting my gut and being like, bro, Peter, it's just time to move on. Don't text them. Don't call them. Don't email them. Just let it die on the vine. Like, there's no need to go have any fanfare here or any goodbye lunches. Just let it die. Let it die. Learn to identify the things you can't change in the world. And don't waste time on them. Your gut's already been telling you that. Number 2, learn to identify patterns of behavior that get you in trouble. Your gut has told you many times before, don't touch that. Don't think that. You know where this goes. You know what happens next, right? These patterns of behavior. And under these patterns of behavior, number 3, learn to remember the feeling. The feeling. Right? You've been here before, haven't you? That's sometimes I literally say that to myself in my mind's eye. I'm like, whoa, Peter. Deja fucking vu. You've been here before, haven't you? You know exactly what situation you got yourself into, right? Your gut, learn to trust the feeling. Right? Learn to identify these patterns of behavior and learn to remember the feeling. You've been here before, haven't you? Number 4, learn to remember the story. You know how this ends. Now, I've literally said that to myself in my mind's eye as well. At gut moments, I'm like, Peter, I'm going to tell you, brother, you know how this ends. You know how this is going to go down. Right? You've been here before, but sometimes we don't trust our gut at that level, right? You've been here before, and then you say, yeah, but this time's going to be different. Okay, you hang out and you stay. And then your gut's talking to you again a little bit later in the circumstance. And the thing that you should be going through your mind is, you know how this ends. You've been here before, and you've already passed that. You've already made that decision to stay. But you know how this ends. You know exactly how this ends. You see, these four things is basically how you should run through the gut, because I'm giving you 4 areas where your gut talks to you and we tend to ignore them. Number 1, learn to identify things you can't change. Number 2, learn to identify patterns of behavior. How do you get here? Learn to remember the feelings and learn to remember the story. These are 4 points in a gut situation when your gut is talking to you that we tend to ignore. And I would say we have 4 chances of making it right. But some of us, right, learn to identify the things you can't change. That person, you can't change her. Okay? You know what? This time is different. She asked me to come out and we're going to hang out. Number 2, learn to identify the patterns of behavior. Wait. Didn't we get into something? Didn't we get into trouble last time? Like she asked me to hang out. Number 3, learn to remember the feeling. You've been here before. Oh, that's right. Yeah. It was only 2 weeks ago. I was in the exact same spot right before a knock on the door. I remember this. Deja fucking vu. I could leave because I know, no, it's going to be different this time. Number 4, learn to remember the story. You're in the door, brother. You've accepted the invitation. You know how this ends. You know how this ends. And it is just trouble waiting for you at the other side of that narrative. Small note. I think it's bigger than a small note. This is a really important factor to this idea of the gut. The gut is talking to you. The gut is constantly talking to you. And it is not a logical, it is not a rational thing. It's just telling you what you know you already need to do in that moment. Okay? The gut's just telling you. It's confirming to you. And you know why? Here's what I believe. Let's just go into it. I believe the divine matrix exists. And you say, what the fuck? We were just talking about gut, your brain talking to you, rationale, your gut telling you on a different wavelength. I'm following you. Learn to identify things you can't change. Learn to identify patterns of behavior. Learn to remember the feeling. Learn to remember the story. But what's all this stuff about a divine matrix, guys? What does that mean? The divine matrix is everything around us is connected. That we live in the matrix. We lived in Neo world. There's the green code everywhere. It's just not green. It's just invisible, but it's divine. Everything is connected. How do I know this? Let me go through it really quickly for you. And I've talked about this before on previous podcasts, but it's so important here when it comes to trusting your gut. The divine matrix is that we are all moving. We are all atoms. Do you remember science? Atoms are constantly moving, which means we're all constantly vibrating. How do I know that we're constantly vibrating? Because everything decays over time, even a solid wood. Just like this wood will decay over time, which means it is slowly decaying because all the atoms in it are moving. Everything is vibrating. So we can all concede that we're all moving at an atomic level. We're all vibrating all the time. The next part, we vibrate on different levels, okay, depending on our feelings, emotions, and thoughts, etc. Okay, there is a difference between vibrating high and vibrating low. It doesn't take a scientist to understand when you're vibrating high, you're on, we can consider, better vibration, positive vibration. Different levels of thinking, higher levels of thinking. When you're vibrating low, you're basically dying, okay? You're basically dying. We'll just leave it at that, okay? So there's a difference between vibrating high and vibrating low. We are all vibrating constantly in this, what I would say is the divine matrix. I lifted that from someone, I don't remember who. But we are all living and vibrating together in this divine matrix. I'm sitting here, I'm vibrating. The air that I'm connected to is vibrating. It's connected to me. That's vibrating. That's vibrating right to the door, which is vibrating. That door is connected to the air on the other side, which is vibrating. That air is connected to my wife, who is also vibrating. I am constantly in connection and communion with all facets of life all the time. That is why we are all connected always. This is why prayer works. This is why when people think together on the same wavelength, amazing things happen. This has been studied, guys. This is now, you might say, oh, maybe you shouldn't use the word prayer. Fuck it. I'm using the word prayer because prayer works, guys. When groups of people come together for positive and they're all vibrating at the same level, things change. The body responds to this positive level, high vibration. It's just not taught to us in schools, guys. None of this is taught to us in school. They teach you that atoms are vibrating. They teach you that everything is made of atoms and they're vibrating, but they never go the next step. The next step, if everything is made of atoms, and atoms are always moving in constant motion and making everything vibrate, that means everything is vibrating all the time. Everything is moving all the time, which means we're all connected in this divine matrix. That is what the gut is. That is what the gut is to me. And it's not scientific, but I'm telling you guys, I think it's the fucking truth. That is the gut. The gut is you vibrating, you connecting to what you already know you need to do. Your brain's going to tell you otherwise. Don't waste time on them. Last time you did this, it got you in trouble. You've been here before, haven't you? Right? Oh, come on. You know how this ends. You know how this ends. That's your brain talking to you. Your gut's trying to make your brain to remember these things so you can make better decisions. That's what the gut level is. It's the right vibration for that decision in that moment in time. I can tell you very easily when it was clear that the decision needed to be made when I met my wife. We just were on the exact same vibration. We were on the exact same wavelength on all levels. Everything was go, red line, all the way, everything. It just made sense. And what was so great about knowing, it was just, there was no emotion. That's what's not sexy about this. There was no emotion. There was no fluttering of the heart. There was no ridiculous passion. It was just, holy fuck. It just is. It just already was. I just didn't live it yet, right? In the linear span of time. It was already established, this thing, this reason, this happening, this meeting, and it totally takes the sex away from the story, but I could try to demean this idea even more and just say it was a logical decision to marry this woman, but it wasn't a logical decision. It wasn't logical to marry my wife, and it certainly wasn't emotional to marry my wife. Nothing happened. The choice almost wasn't even necessary. I don't actually, thinking about it right now, I don't think I had a choice. It just was already in existence. And in the linear space of time, I had just caught up to the reality in which our two vibrational waves, our two souls, would finally meet and would interlock. And that was it. That was it. That was it. And you say, well, Peter, wow, can you give us some more context? Yes, I'll give you some more context. I met my wife online on eHarmony.com. Okay? She was my number 6 match. Okay? She was living in LA. I was living out here in Atlanta. Okay? She was my 6th match. She had nothing written on her profile, and I had everything written on my profile. I just put everything out there, guys. Long story short, one of my friends got married through eHarmony, and I love her. She's an awesome friend, and she met her husband through eHarmony, and I was a traveling consultant working my ass off. I had no time for this nonsense, this thing called dating. And we sat down after a long week. We went ate sushi. And she told me, she said, you need to do eHarmony. She's like, just do it. I was like, okay. So I did it. And my wife was my 6th match. She was in LA. I was in Atlanta. We talked for 30 days, literally 30 days. And then she flew out here to see me. And we hung out for a couple days. No hanky-panky, because I'm a good man. And I don't steal the Quan before you should steal the Quan. I was a good man. I treated her right. I respected her who she was. And then she went back to LA. And then a month later, I flew out and we got married. So I didn't know this woman. Literally, I did not know this woman. If you want to go back to biblical terms, This woman was not known to me because I respected her. I respected her body. I respected who she was. I respected her soul. When she came out to meet me, we talked. We engaged in conversational foreplay. Yep. And then I went out in a month and we got married in Orange County Courthouse for less than $100. It was awesome. There was very little emotion. There was emotion, the emotion that can be, right, in this moment, right, of excitement, of having, I guess, physically chosen to walk this life together after only knowing each other for like 2 months and only seeing each other for like 2 days. Yeah, guys. And I'll tell you why. Because my gut just said, this is it. My gut just said, this is it. And I responded. It was the best decision of my life. It was the best decision of my life. I'll tell you a second place where I trusted my gut and it worked out. Starting my career in cryptocurrency. Retiring from the consulting world after 12 long years and prosperous years. I quit and I retired. I had a retirement party. And I went into cryptocurrency. I knew it. It was the right thing to do. It was time. Burn the ships. You're retiring. You had a retirement party. After you have a retirement party, it is kind of embarrassing to want to come back. It really is. So you kind of just have to burn the ships. Delete the profiles. Delete the .coms. Delete the websites. Delete the blogs. Starting over. And maybe in some people, they can start over and they can move into a new thing without burning the ships, but that's not how I work. It's a new life. It's a new identity. It's a new time to re-roll a class, re-roll and do something different. And so I did. I burned the ships. I went into crypto. I just knew I had to. I did it. It was great. We built 7 applications and we're still building awesome ones today. And the ones that we've built are still lasting today. It's awesome. I knew it. It was a gut level. And I've learned enough to trust it because the gut knows, right? And I know exactly what I need to do with my next project. Exactly. I have zero hesitation, zero issues. I am ridiculously excited because the gut has told me so. Trust your gut. Trust your gut. When you trust your gut, you are accepting the vibration on the right level when you do. It's the best way that I could say it. That when you trust your gut, you are accepting the world at the right moment. And everything's in tune. And the gut gives you several chances to stay on that level. The gut gives you those chances. It says, whoa. Hold up, sister. Hold up, brother. Pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. Well, are you wasting time on this? And you'll say, no, I can do this again. And say, whoa. Last time you did this, it got you in trouble. And you say, no, this time's different. God gives you a third chance. Whoa. You've been here before. Come on now. Come on, let's get real. Come on, let's get brass tacks. Come on now. Then it says, the gut says, you know how this ends. You know how this is going to end. You've been down this road before. You know what suffering looks like. You've tasted defeat. You could go through that experience, that mental gymnastics of sorts, or you could just trust your gut because the gut is telling you the right thing to do. Call it your conscious, call it your guide, call it your spirit animal. I don't give a fuck what you call it. Your gut is real. It's the counterbalance to the mental retardation that we have in our brains. It really is. It's the counterbalance, guys. It's what God has created, this stomach of ours, to tell us what's right and what's wrong in the moments in which we truly, truly need it. So here's the question for you guys today. Where do you need to trust your gut? Thanks, guys. I enjoyed delivering this idea. I hope it really helped and resonated with you guys. Be blessed, my friends. Be blessed. Share, subscribe, let people know, and I'll see you behind the scenes on yen.io. Things you didn't learn in school. Yeah, peace.